Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl A. Major, and I want to welcome you to this podcast of Thin, Strong, Healthy. And today we're going to talk about gluten. Gluten, is it a fad? Is it bad? What's the story with gluten? So it seems everywhere you go, you see products that are labeled as gluten-free. Even items that are naturally gluten-free are loudly proclaiming that they're gluten-free. So is this a fad? Is this going to go away? Is it important? What's the truth about gluten? I want to talk about all that stuff today. So according to WebMD.com, about 5% of the population suffers with celiac disease. And some of them know it, some of them don't know it, but the ones who don't know it are very sick and they don't know why. So celiac is a condition where your body is unable to process gluten. And gluten is a protein, actually. And some of us are designed to process it, and some of us are designed to have problems with it. And it's a type of gluten that's found, a type of a protein that's found in wheat, among other grains. So we'll talk a little bit about what can be the side effects if you're having issues with gluten, but I also want to talk about non-celiac gluten sensitivity, NCGS. I have to picture it in my mind before I tell you the NCGS, non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And I freely admit I suffer from it too. And about 5% of the population suffers with sensitivity to gluten, and it means that it's not going to kill you, which being celiac and eating gluten can, but it will give you skin rashes, it will give you all kinds of symptoms, it will give you intestinal gut problems, and again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But going gluten-free has a lot of benefits, and going gluten-free does not do any harm. As long as you're getting enough of the B vitamins that are found in the wheat and that the gluten provides, you'll be just fine. So a lot of companies these days are using gluten-free to market their products. And the products are more expensive because they're gluten-free. But, you have to be vigilant because marketing's wonderful. It's fun. It's great. But it can also really tell us a bunch of lies. So you have to be very careful with the marketing, because just because it says gluten-free and you struggle with celiac or you have gluten sensitivity or gluten intolerance, it doesn't mean that gluten-free on the package means that it's a good choice. So again, and I know I harp on this, but you have to turn over the package. You have to look at the other ingredients to see what else is in there, because if it's gluten-free but it's loaded with bad oils and all kinds of sugar, it's still not going to be a good choice for you. So the short answer is if you can start pushing processed foods off your plate and putting natural foods on your plate, you're going to be in much better shape. And I mean that in every way, mentally, physically, your weight. When you can get processed foods, including gluten, foods with gluten, processed foods with gluten and without gluten, when you can push those off your plate, your body's going to find its own weight. I have so many people who come to me for weight loss questions and help and all of this. And your weight is not about your weight. It's not. And dieting doesn't work. And I'm getting off track here a little bit, but bear with me because I just have to say this. The diet industry in this country is a multi-billion dollar industry every year. Just watch TV and watch the older stars who come on and tout how they've lost so much weight with XYZ program and you should buy XYZ food. What they're selling is processed food. It's not going to make you healthy. It's not. So I'll stop there. I'll tamp it down. Sometimes I get too excited about this stuff because I really want to make a difference for people. And I've learned so much, and I've made a difference for myself. So I am committed and dedicated to helping you too. So stick with me on this stuff. So, is a gluten-free diet right for you? Well, let's look at some of the things that you might be experiencing that might be keys to a gluten-free diet being a good choice for you. If you have frequent digestive problems, and I know TMI on this, but if you have chronic diarrhea or loose stools, it may be a sign that you have a gluten allergy. If you eat gluten and you get a migraine the next day, I have a friend who eats gluten, gets a migraine. So she doesn't eat it very often, but once in a while you say, I haven't had it in a while, I'll go out for a pizza. Next day she's in a dark room with a cold cloth on her head because she has a migraine again. So migraines, things like that. If you have, back to digestive problems, if you have cramping, gas, other digestive issues, gluten may be the cause. And just removing gluten can make your system run more efficiently, run better. You won't be running to the bathroom after you have a piece of bread or a pizza. And it will also tamp down the inflammation in your body. And that's a huge thing, because in this age of COVID, the people who are in the most trouble when they get COVID are people who have chronic inflammation, who have high levels of chronic inflammation. And I'll do a podcast for you on inflammation, because that's fascinating. I mean, this stuff, you go down the rabbit hole and you can go on forever because it's so deep and it's so important. But see, I get so excited. So, I digress. Let me get back on track here. Okay, so digestive issues. Gluten may be the culprit. If you have chronic sinus problems, if you have phlegm, if you have sinus infections, if you eat bread and then you get stuffy, that's a sign that you have a gluten allergy. So getting off gluten can help you not be stuffy. It can also help alleviate postnasal drip that never goes away. If you don't have a sinus infection and you still have postnasal drip all the time, what could it possibly be? Well, the odds are it could very possibly be a sensitivity to gluten. And you don't have to be allergic to it. You just have to be sensitive to it if your body has trouble processing it. Now, also, if you have chronic fatigue, if you struggle with energy, every day is a struggle. You just can't get out of your own way. Gluten might be the cause. And gluten is found in everything. It's found in bread and pasta and starchy vegetables, and those can contribute to a drop in your blood glucose level. It can bump you up and then drop you down, very similar to the way sugar behaves. So if you can get those out of your diet, get yourself back on track and normalized, that is going to help you a lot. It's also going to improve your sleep, and that will improve your energy too. Take a look in the mirror. Is your face puffy? Is it kind of, what's your skin tone? What's your skin color look like? If it's kind of pasty, if it's a little gray, if it's real beige with no vibrance or color, if it's puffy and a little bloated, the odds are gluten might be the culprit. And processed foods certainly could be the culprit too. So if you get gluten off your plate and out of your life, you're going to feel a lot better. Chronic infections, illnesses, and depression. When I realized I was no longer depressed, and the backstory to that is that my husband Rob was having a lot of side effects from a statin that he had been on, and they were pretty serious, and they were pushing him to type 2 diabetes. And he had all kinds of problems. So we had to get his cholesterol normalized. We had to back him off the diabetes, pre-diabetes diagnosis. So we radically changed our diet, and we got him backed off. And I mean, he's in the normal range for everything now. But what we didn't realize was, for me, getting off sugar and gluten and dairy and processed foods, for me, a few months later, I was selling my family home, didn't want to do it. We were waiting for me to go into a really, really bad period of depression, and I didn't. I didn't. And it wasn't that I wasn't sad, because I was, but I was appropriately sad. And if you've ever struggled with depression, I don't have to tell you that there's a huge difference between being depressed and being appropriately sad. So we realized I was no longer chronically depressed. Is every day tiptoe through the tulips? No, life happens. But you're better able to deal with it. You can be more level and you can take the highs and lows a lot better. Trust me, I know. I'm speaking to you from the heart and from experience. So people asked me, so I began to talk and teach and do the TV show here on Westford Cat, Thin, Strong, Healthy. And people started asking me, okay, Cheryl, so what did you get out of your diet? Was it sugar? Was it gluten? What was it? Well, one of the things was gluten. That wasn't the whole picture, but one of the things certainly was gluten. So I can tell you from experience that getting gluten out of your diet really does, if you're gluten sensitive, improve your mood, improve your depression. There's another school of thought. Even if you're not celiac, even if you're not gluten sensitive, it's a good idea to get off gluten or to lessen your gluten, because they're finding that when they do autopsies on people with Alzheimer's and with dementia, they're finding that their brains have amyloid plaques. Now, amyloid plaque is caused in part, not completely, but gluten, the consumption of gluten does contribute to the development of amyloid plaque. So it's a good idea, if you want to keep your marbles straight up here, it's a good idea to back off your gluten intake and see how you feel about that. So what do you do? What do you do next? Well, if you think that gluten might be causing some problems for you, get off it for 30 minutes. That'd be nice. Get off it for 30 days. I think that's wishful thinking. Get off it for 30 days and see how you feel. See how you feel. Now, they have gluten-free bread that you can buy in the store. So you could certainly pick up a loaf of that. Again, on my website, you are more than welcome to go to my website, go to the recipe sections. I have 2 or 3 recipes for gluten-free bread that I personally make and eat and use. One's a flatbread, a soka, and then I have a couple of gluten-free breads. And you're more than welcome to grab those recipes. No charge, no cost. That's a resource that's there for you always. thinstronghealthy.com. And you can take whatever you want from there. So gluten is, like sugar, is sneaky. So again, you have to read your labels. They're putting gluten in places that you would not believe. Check your soup cans. They will put gluten in soup. Gluten is in shampoo and conditioner. Gluten is in creams and lotions. Why do you need to have gluten in any of those things? I mean, gluten is what gives it that nice pulley texture, your bread. That's one of the challenges of making gluten-free bread, is that it doesn't have that pulley texture. So, it's up to you to make the decision. Do I eat it all the time and, I'll just live with what happens? Do you eat it occasionally? Honestly, I eat it occasionally. And another aside for you, if you eat sourdough bread, there's something about sourdough bread that, if you're sensitive to gluten, may allow you to process the gluten more efficiently and more easily in your gut. So if you think that you're having issues and you don't want to get off gluten, try sourdough bread. Okay, that's today's hot tip for you. When you're going through getting off gluten, you will probably go through a bit of withdrawal, just like when you're getting off sugar. So just be aware. Make sure you're eating plenty of whole grains. Rice is good, not white rice. And brown rice it's a little better than white rice, but if you're eating black and mahogany and wild rice, that's a better choice. Again, go for color. If you question what's good for you, think color. Think richness of color. Think vibrance of color, and that will never, ever fail you. Stay hydrated. Drink lots of water. And a good tip is drink water, get off your soda, people. It's another rant that I get on. But give yourself a break for a full month from gluten and see what happens. And if you have any questions about any of this, you're welcome to shoot me an email, Cheryl@thinstronghealthy.com. And again, I have a food journal that I will gladly share with you. So if you'd like to get a copy of that, that's not posted on my blog because that's included with the programs and the courses that I develop and teach. But I'm happy to give it to you. So email me, Cheryl@thinstronghealthy.com, and just put in the subject line, "I want the food journal," and that will catch my eye, and I'll shoot it off to you. So I hope this has been helpful. Gluten is part of the picture. I mean, if you're celiac, it's a huge thing. If you're gluten sensitive, it's pretty big. Trust me. And also, another thing that you should be aware of, if you're gluten sensitive, the chances are that you're probably dairy sensitive too. So try backing off the dairy as well. And you can make fabulous changes, and it doesn't matter your age. You can make fabulous changes in your health, in your wellness, in your well-being, both mental and physical. You can make changes in your weight without dieting. Don't diet, don't diet, don't diet. Don't pay for diet programs. Diets don't work. They don't. Diet is a 4-letter word. Just eat whole, healthy food. Get the processed stuff out of your life. Try getting off gluten for 30 days and see how you feel. I bet you're going to feel amazingly well. And you may have withdrawal, and you may have cravings in the beginning. Once you get through that phase, I think you'll start to feel fabulous. You may I expect you will have more energy, you'll feel better, you'll sleep better, your mood will be better. So give it a shot. So that's today's info on gluten. I want to thank you for joining me. This is Cheryl A. Major with Thin, Strong, Healthy. And this is the podcast. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.